Yo, it's a week on, just over a week since Barkley. I've left Tennessee, I'm back in California. I'm actually on the Western States coast at the moment. But I've had a bunch of questions about Barkley, and I've obviously been thinking about it a lot and thinking about what happened. And so I thought it might be best just to maybe sit down in front of a camera and have a chat about it, bit of an update, answer a few questions, as much for my own sake as anyone else's, but I know there's a lot of people out there who are interested, and a bunch of people who gave me so much support during the race, so I feel I should. So anyway, bear with it if you're interested in Barkley. Later. Hello, it's me. So let's talk Barkley. I'm sure you already know what Barkley Marathons is all about, but if you don't, here's a quick recap from a couple of weeks ago. So if you don't know anything about Barkley Marathons, it's held in Frozen Head State Park. It's been going for quite a long time now, but it's not had many finishers. I think we've only had 15 or 16 finishers. Nobody finished last year, and only one person finished the year before the full 5 laps. If you complete 3 laps within 40 hours, it's classed as a fun run. You need to complete the full 5 laps in 60 hours, which sounds like a lot for just over 100 miles, but it has 70,000 feet of ascent. A lot of it's off trail, and you need to navigate each time, so I think the navigation requirement's pretty high, especially when you're going to have to navigate at night as well. And if the weather gets bad, like last year there was bad fog, and it adds a whole new dimension. So this has been a real focus race for me. I trained super hard over the winter, probably harder than I've ever really trained. I usually have a bit of downtime over the winter, but it was pretty much full on. I did a fair bit of training through December. Yo, it's me. I'm back in Scotland. I originally sat down and shot this probably a couple of weeks after Barkley. It was the best time to do it really when I was in California, but I had to come back. And then I sat down and reviewed it, and I just started chatting obviously, and it turns out it was probably over an hour, so nobody wants to sit through that, so I'll save you any of that bother. So I've left out a bunch of stuff. I've really just focused on what happened when the cigarette was lit. So I won't talk about travel. I won't talk about training in the park and everything that happened when I was out in Tennessee.
Holy shit balls.
It's a weird life. Now I'm here. Now I'm
Sitting in your Chevy and your pants gonna have diarrhea. Diarrhea!
I won't talk about the people that I met. I won't talk about Graham and Melanie when they arrived, and everything that happened in the few days before getting into the park and before the race, and all the additional stress that caused. And not everything went exactly to plan. We had a few mishaps, but we had lots of laughs as well. So I've kept it really just about the race. I haven't edited it, I haven't cut things out, it's just me chatting. So I hope you get something from it. If not, then you can leave me a nasty comment below. Bye! So the start wasn't super slow. It wasn't like I thought it might have been. People were really taking their time. Certainly the faster guys, we were all off as if it was a race. Probably until halfway up the first climb, and then it turned into a bit more of a hike, which was fine. A couple of guys kind of pushed on, but I was with John and Jared and Guillaume, and I just kind of hung with that group, and I thought this is a good place to be. They obviously know the course super well, and some serious veterans there, and I kind of hung with them initially. So my plan from the outset really was, in terms of nutrition, was to try and eat something every time I got to a book. Because you're stopped and you're putting your page away, I thought it would be a good time to maybe try and cram some food in, but it didn't quite work out that way, certainly. You'll find if you're getting to a book and there's 4 or 5 of you, if you're like number 4 or number 5 getting the book handed to you and you're ripping your page out, the other 3 are gone. They're just legging it away. I don't know if it's deliberate or it's just the way it is with Barkley, and everybody's focused on time and pace, and it probably didn't help that it was the first lap, but everybody's just gone. So you're quite keen to try and hang with the group that, you know, really know where they're going and have done the race a number of times and finished the race as well. So it was kind of stressful, you know. I just never had a chance to actually really focus on the nutrition part of it. And then like an hour or 2 into it, I realised I'd made a mistake with what I was wearing. It was way too warm. It was actually a really warm day, but it's really hard to tell in camp. And the weather changes so quickly at Frozen Head. It's like its own microclimate. Like sometimes it can be nice and then within 10 minutes. I mean, it even happened on the Friday night. There was like a really heavy downpour, and it gets cold pretty quickly. And a lot of the time it can be warmish in camp, but when you get up onto the mountains, there's this cold breeze. It kind of cuts you in two. And I found that in training quite a lot, so I was conscious of that, and I was probably nervous about getting cold in the first lap.
The race had branches in your face. Nice.
I was wearing way too much, but I didn't feel I had a chance to stop to take anything off, so it was just stay with the guys I wanted to stay with and keep pushing. So the pace was pretty frantic for the first few hours really. We picked up the books pretty easily. We're kind of sharing the navigation, although a couple of the guys at the front obviously knew exactly where the books were, so it was more a kind of checking of the map and checking your bearing rather than really worrying too much about where the book was. And then you're trying to take a mental note of where it is for the next time on the next lap, which adds another kind of dimension as well. You've kind of got to be aware of what's behind you, so that even if you're doing a reverse lap as well, you've got a good idea of where the book is, because they're quite easy to lose, because they're hidden in between rocks or behind a tree or in the crack of a tree. Yeah, all this is running through your mind as well. So By the time we got out to the other side of the park, I'm not sure what the time would have been, but we get out towards garden spot. It was really hot, and there's a water drop there just after the garden spot. So I filled up both bottles. I was desperate to be drinking more. I probably hadn't carried enough, to be honest. And I got out of there, and for some reason I thought we were going straight up Stallion. I wasn't quite paying attention to my map. And I started heading up Stallion, where you don't really, on this course you didn't have to go up to the peak, so I had to make a kind of turnaround. As I was coming down, I tripped and I fell. You fall lots of times in Barkley, obviously it's not always such a big deal, but it wasn't a serious fall. But my bottle came out. I didn't realise until I'd run on for 5 minutes, and then wondered why my pack was so light. Which was a bit of a pain, so I had like one 500ml bottle to get me, for the next 4 hours probably, until I get round to Frozen Head Tower. So that didn't help. It definitely ended up being dehydrated. By the time I got round there, it's quite a long time to get round to Frozen Head Tower. You've got Leonard's Butt Slide to do, you've got Rat Jaw, and you've got that new climb in the middle as well before Rat Jaw. Which was pretty steep and hard going, particularly when you're low on fluids. And then because I had no water left, it's difficult to eat as well, so I was definitely low on energy too. Eventually I found a plastic bottle just at the side of a trail, an old scabby old muddy plastic bottle that I hope nobody had pissed in. It didn't smell like it anyway, and I kept it in my pack for going up to Frozen Head Tower, so I could have 2 bottles at least by then, but I was out of fluids before that. Which was a bit of a shame. So Leonard's Butt Slide, I'd kind of lost some of the people that I'd been with at that point, just before that, and met up with another guy from Colombia, I think he is. He was cool, so the two of us kind of helped each other to get there. We got to Leonard's Butt Slide, and then that was a tricky one to find a good route down. It's just crazy steep. It looks like, in fact the instructions I think were like, if it looks too steep to go down, then you're probably in the right place, and it was, and there's branches and fallen trees and all sorts of stuff and mud and stuff you can't see under the leaves, so that was a bit of a nightmare, and a few guys caught us up then on the way back up. You go down to the bottom and then back up normally, so we ended up in a pretty decent group, going up towards Fikes Peak and then down to Bouquet. And that was a new part of the course, and it was pretty tricky. It didn't feel like we were getting anywhere, and I thought we were going the wrong way and we would never find this book, but we got it eventually. And then there's a huge steep climb up from there, and that felt tough. My legs were really struggling then, and I think it was partly just pushing hard on the first 4 or 5 hours potentially. Not drinking enough and not eating enough, just because I was so focused on the navigation and hanging with the right people, and making sure I didn't get caught out in terms of the navigation, end up wasting loads of time looking for a book. So that was a kind of focus for me, and looking back I would definitely have to have changed that. I never quite got my nutrition and hydration right, but it's tricky, and it's a lesson learned for that race. I kind of thought the pace might be a little bit slower. I thought we'd have more opportunity. I actually thought we'd work better, or we'd work more closely as a team, because whilst it's a race, I think we all know, or anybody who knows anything about Barkley, you're not racing against other people. You're really battling against the course and the conditions and what Laz has set out in terms of the navigation, rather than battling people. So it's not like a traditional race, but certainly for the first 5 or 6 hours it felt like it was. And I would definitely tackle that a little bit differently maybe the next time. So by the time we got round to book 14, I think, my legs were knackered. I think it was just not drinking enough. I was cramping a lot. I was cramping everywhere, cramping my quads, cramping in my hands, my fingers, and I'd obviously lost, my clothes were like covered in salt and sweat, so I'd obviously lost a lot of electrolytes and fluid, and that really affected me. So I was pretty slow getting back into camp. Like, it really felt like I'd run, 80 miles of a 100-miler by that point, and that was loop 1. So I get round to camp and I was feeling pretty bad. I went up and handed in my pages. They were all fine, all 14 were there, and then wandered back down to where our camp was, and I wasn't thinking at all about pulling out, but I was thinking this is going to be super tough now. I feel terrible. My legs are in trouble. I'd been too hot, I'd been uncomfortable, I'd been dehydrated. So fortunately, Melanie and Graham just got to work really. We just had to take a bit more time than what we'd planned initially. I think we definitely planned to be a little bit quicker in camp, but we took a bit of time to make sure we got me feeling better. I got a load of food into me, I got a lot of fluids into me, and I started feeling a bit fresher. It was like, I don't know, after about 10-15 minutes I could feel it. I could feel different. I could feel like I was coming back to myself and coming back into the race, and the guys were saying to me, you're definitely sounding and looking and feeling better. And they could see it. So we had to prepare for the night lap. We knew there was a storm coming in. So we went with like the full wet gear really. I got some long leggings on and wrapped up a couple of layers in a waterproof and hat, and you had to pick up your head torch and all that stuff as well to carry. So we changed our nutrition strategy and the drinks, and I went out with 2 full bottles, which was nice.
Oh, good one. All right. The second loop is much easier than the first one. There you go.
It's not last when I come back.
Because you can't see anything, so you don't know how bad it is.
It's going to be a lot cooler. When you're ready to go,
Right.
just grab it and go.
And you can't see how bad the climbs are, so it's just ignorance.
So going back out again, I kind of felt like I had too much on when I started on the first climb again. But I kind of stuck with it because I knew there was a storm coming. And we ended up in a group. There was maybe 4 or 5, well, it was 4 initially going up. James Elson was there from the UK, which was cool, and a few American guys. And we kind of agreed without like a formal agreement. It seemed like when we got to the first book that we were going to stick together for a bit to try and find the rest of the books. It was dark now, it was getting late, and it was starting to get cold and wet. So after book 1, the rain started, and it was fine at first. It kind of just felt like I was in Scotland. It was actually quite nice when it'd been so hot for the whole first lap, which was probably, I don't know, 9 hours, 10 hours or something. It felt quite nice. It felt like a welcome relief to get some rain and stuff, and we seemed to be navigating pretty well. At night time, book 1 was fine. By book 2, I think, was it book 2? Yeah, book 2, 2 of the guys started getting really cold. It was windy and it started getting really heavy, the rain, and they were getting worried about not feeling that great. The legs were cramping, and the weather was getting worse and worse. It was getting later, and every book you go on, you're further committed, probably till about, I don't know, book 5 or 6. You're further committed into the park, and there's no easy way back then. So 2 of the guys dropped, I think, after book 2, which left 3 of us. But they're not like wet behind the ears, done a couple of ultras and now doing the Barkley. These are like proper tough runners. Some of these guys have done the Tour, done UTMB, you know, they're real athletes, and to start seeing them drop and getting worried about where they were and worried about navigation and how cold they were does play on your mind, certainly. Just because I just didn't think it was going to happen. Like when we were a group of 5, I thought that was it. We were solid 5 of us, and there wouldn't be people pulling out. But so you lose a couple, and you think, right, okay, that's fine. There's 3 of us. 3's a good number, and we were talking and moving well and navigating well, and we were all trying to eat and stay warm. We got to book 3, and then we came up from book 3, and we got back on a trail, and then one of the guys was just way too cold. He was trying to stay warm as best he could, and we'd stopped and put on all the clothing that we had. I wasn't so bad. Like I'd gone out and known it was going to get bad, so I had waterproof trousers and jacket and some gloves. Not everybody did. So he decided to turn around and go back when we got back on the trail after book 3. So that left just 2 of us. And I spoke to him and I said, I want to push on, I don't want to go back. Are you cool? And he was the same. So we pushed on for book 4. And we got up to book 4, however longer it took, I can't remember, but it was getting wild. Like seriously strong winds up there and heavy rain. and you get some kind of mist or fog as well, so it's really difficult to see. But book 4 isn't the trickiest in terms of navigation. We kind of missed the turn off a little bit, just because it's hard to see where you are and work out what's going on. But we got up there once we had realised we'd kind of missed our turn off point. We navigated straight to the book and we got the book. And he tried to put on some more clothes and get some food to try and get warmer, but he was absolutely freezing, and he was getting worried, and I was cold and getting worried as well. And it was difficult. I kind of you need to be in a team, or you need to be in a pair, I think, at night time, particularly when the weather's so bad. It just started feeling pretty dangerous and not a good place to be. So I kind of stood about waiting for him to get sorted to see if he would warm up, and I just started getting colder and colder myself. When you were moving, it was okay, but when you stopped for a second or two, even when you stopped at a book to get the page out and then try and put your page away to try and keep that dry, you just got freezing cold. And by this point it's probably midnight or something. The storm just seemed to be getting worse and worse. The wind was definitely getting stronger, and it was getting colder. And at 1 o'clock in the morning there's still a few degrees to go in terms of temperature drop, probably until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when it gets properly cold. So he decided to go back. It was a last point for a kind of easy-ish return to camp, which left me kind of standing at the top of a mountain thinking, what am I going to do? I'm not ready to stop. I don't want to give this up. I don't feel great. I feel battered and I feel cold and worried, and it was so easy to make a mistake. And even some of the navigation, when you're navigating down onto a trail, you feel kind of safe, because if you can navigate by the trails, worst case, you can always get yourself back to camp. But with the conditions as they were, like everywhere's covered in leaves and mud, and you stop seeing what the trails are. It's dark, it's foggy and misty. I kind of worried that I might even miss some of the trails, and you make a mistake there and you're hours and hours and hours from getting back or being safe. So I didn't know what to do. Like, I've been in races before that you don't finish, but it was different from any other race I've done before. And that when I've DNF'd before in the past, it's usually you feel like you can't go on physically, or you've just had enough, or you just don't want to do it anymore. But it wasn't like that for me. Like, I desperately wanted to keep going, even though I was pretty battered and I was on my own at this point now. It was after midnight, storm was bad. I just thought, I can't just turn around now and give up on lap 2. So I decided to push on. Like, I was stuck. Like, 1 minute I was heading on towards the next book, and then I stopped for a second and think, am I just being crazy here? Am I putting myself at serious risk? So then I turn around and then I take 2 steps and I think, well, this is why I'm here, and I always knew this race was going to be risky, and maybe this is my moment to keep pushing on. So I did that for a couple of times, and then I decided to push on for the next book. So I managed to navigate down onto the trail, and you've got a pretty decent trail for a bit there, which I managed to find, and I pushed on towards the garden spot. And when I got there, it was just getting worse and worse, and you're pretty much at the furthest point away from camp at that point. And like, when you turn to go up Stallion, then you're totally committed. There's no way back at that point. You need to go and do everything that's in front of you, pretty much. And the wind was howling. It was dark. My hands were freezing. This sounds like a list of excuses. It's not at all. Like, I'll properly beat myself up about this decision forever, or until I can go back, maybe, if I'm lucky enough to be able to go back. But you struggle to get your map out when your fingers are frozen. I couldn't turn my compass to try and get a bearing properly. And it just felt like it was way too risky, even though I didn't want to give up. I didn't take it lightly. It wasn't like any other race where I was a bit tired or my legs were a bit sore or I've hurt myself or I just don't want to do this anymore. It wasn't that at all. I would have just kept going maybe, and if there had been someone else around me, then I'm sure I would have pushed on, because I knew the storm wasn't going to last forever. But you know, you read sometimes, I can't remember who said it recently, but it was maybe Pyllon or something, but maybe he was talking about Everest or something, but like saying to yourself, it's not that bad, I'm not going to die. But I didn't think I was close to death, but I did think I was taking some serious risks by this point. It was, I don't know, nearly 1 o'clock in the morning or something, maybe, I don't know. And yeah, the storm was really bad and I was stuck out on my own. Help wasn't coming. It's not like any other race where you think, I'll just push on to the next checkpoint and it'll be okay. The next checkpoint was camp, really, and that was going to be another 6-7 hours away, maybe, if you could find the books, if you got the navigation right. And if you make a mistake and you go down the wrong side of a mountain and you lose track of where you are, then you're pretty screwed. You're pretty exposed. And yeah, that was it. I made a call to head back, which wasn't easy either. It's not like you're just 2 minutes from an aid station and you can get a hot drink and a bus back to the start. It's not like that. You need to get yourself there, which was fine, but you've got all that time to reflect on what was always going to be in my mind a major failing, considering everything I'd put into that race, all the training I'd done, the cost of it all, and I had people over supporting me, and I'd sacrificed a lot for that race. But it doesn't make me entitled to get a result that I want. I was aware of that. I'm not entitled, and just because you work hard for something doesn't mean it's going to happen and it's going to fall in your lap. So you have all those thoughts going through your mind as you're trying to get back to camp, and then you have to go and see Laz and say you're giving up, when I didn't feel like I was giving up. I almost felt like I had no choice, really. But it would go down as a failure, and it would go down as me giving up because I wasn't tough enough, or I wasn't brave enough, or there was just, I don't know, too much fear going on, or I don't know. And at that moment, it felt like I didn't really have a choice. But looking back now, I wondered if that again was my moment to really, really push myself. I don't know. But I guess I'm here, and maybe I can go back because I desperately want to go back. I wasn't sure as I was walking back to camp or getting back into camp. I was like, maybe this race is not my thing, but as soon as I woke up the next day, I'm like, I need to be able to come back here. I need to be faced with that moment again and make a different decision. I don't know. And then it's tough. I was unlucky in some ways. I was unlucky with the timing of when the storm hit. If the storm had been like an hour later, maybe 2 hours later, I'd have been on the other side of the park, and I would have had to push on, and I would have got through, and I would have completed lap 2, and then you're into a daytime lap and you had a chance to rest for a bit and regroup, and who knows. So that side of it's unfortunate, but I'm not entitled to go and expect to go and finish 3 laps or 4 laps or 5 laps. I can only deal with what happens in those moments and be as best prepared I can, but you have to make decisions in those situations, and it's hard. It's hard for people to understand. It's not a race like any other. It's not a decision I've had to make before like that. I've pulled out of races, like I said, but it's been a very different decision process, and the stakes were always very different. So yeah, that's how it panned out in the end. I would love to go back. I've been obsessed with it for the past 4 months, and I've had amazing support, particularly from Graham, who has been obsessed with it as well, and it felt like a real team effort. And of course, when you do something as a team, then, or you're leading a team, then you're going to feel like you've let people down, and that's not my only drive for going back, but well, it is in some ways. I feel like I let myself down a little bit, or I feel like I missed an opportunity to step beyond something being difficult and step into something else, step into something that felt impossible. And there's definitely some regret there about maybe that was my opportunity and maybe I blew it. I don't know. Anyway, I had an incredible experience at Barkley. It's like nothing I've ever been involved in before. Laz and his team were amazing. I was very grateful to have that opportunity, and I absolutely hope I'll be able to go back at some point. It might not be next year, but I'll keep on trying, because I want to get to that point again, or to get to a slightly different point where it is purely physical and mental, rather than having the added part about the risk, which was bad timed, I think, potentially. But yeah, I'd love to go back. Yeah, the race was incredible. I loved Tennessee. Tennessee doesn't have a great reputation, but I met so many great people. People from Tennessee were super friendly and helpful and interested and kind and chatty, and wanted to know more about me and running and Scotland and everything else. So I had a great time in Tennessee. And after the race, we had an extra day, obviously, because I should have been out there longer, but the three of us, we had some fun. We went to Great Smoky Mountains National Park, had a hike on the Appalachian Trail. Graham had a run, and we had a bit of a laugh, and it was really great. We had a really good time in Tennessee. It's a fantastic place. I'd definitely go back. And yeah, I guess I'm properly bitten by the bug. I just hope I'll be able to go back at some point and do things differently. Yeah. So from your side of things, thanks so much for everybody who sent me messages of support and followed, and I feel like I let some of you guys down as well, but it's one of those things. I made a decision. I had to make a decision. You can't debate things for too long when the conditions were that bad, and that's fine. I'll have to fight another day. So thanks so much for your support. I got a bunch of questions tweeted, so I think I'll do it separately. And I thought it might be useful just to talk through some of the kit that I used and talk through what worked and what didn't work. Just if it's useful for your own races. I'd quite like to do that, and I'll answer some of the questions there that I haven't answered already. Hopefully I've answered most anyway. So thanks for that. Thanks for supporting me. Thanks for following me here and on social media and Instagram. I really appreciate it. I don't always get back to people straight away right before or after the race, but just because I'm kind of overwhelmed with everything, and I don't really have the words sometimes to express my gratitude. So thank you. I hope you'll keep supporting and I'll keep trying to do my best. That's all I can do. I got some big other challenges this year. Again, I'm back at Western States, so I'm in California now. I'll be going back to UTMB, and I'll be doing a bunch of other stuff in between. So keep following. Thanks so much, and I will video you soon. Bye. And before I go, I just want to say thanks to a few companies, brands, sponsors who supported my goal, my Barkley goal, which is a difficult one for brands to support because the race isn't like super high profile, like some of the World Tour races like UTMB in Western States. I can understand why brands are not so keen to be involved and not maybe so keen to support you on such a kind of niche race like the Barkley. So thanks so much to Compre Sport, who continue to support me with my racing. I had some good conversations with them back in December, I think, where they were working on some kit for me, which I used in the race, which was really useful. So thanks to the team there, thanks to Carla and Sylvan and his design team at Compre Sport. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. To Topo Athletic, I got shoes sent out like days before the race, which was great. The TerraVenture 2 were just perfect for Barkley. If I was lucky enough to do it again, I would wear the same shoes. They were awesome. I really love the drainage. The grip's much better with the Vibram sole, so thanks so much. Thanks Christine, Tony and Georgia for your support there. I really appreciate it. And to Paresh at LED Lenser, who supplied a load of torches. They were amazing. I particularly liked the focus functionality. It was amazing when you're trying to find books and you're maybe looking around and getting some distance. You can pinpoint the light and focus a light. They were great. They were just flawless. The battery life was excellent. And I was really pleased and comfortable to wear as well, which is the main thing, because head torches can get quite uncomfortable if you're wearing them for 10 hours, but I had no problems there at all, so thanks for your support there. And Simon at Lecky, I got some new poles for the race. Unfortunately I didn't break any, but I had some spares back up as well, so thanks so much for your support there. That was really great. And finally to Unived, who I've been with for a couple of years now, and provide nutrition for racing. I ended up like just falling back on the Unived stuff. It was always in the plan, but I'd planned to eat some more kind of real food and bars and stuff, which didn't quite work out in the first lap because you're pushing so hard and it was so hot. So I ended up resorting to the Unived run drinks and gels, which kept me going, which was great. So thanks so much for your support there. And then just everyone at home, all the Team Pyllon crew. We had a great experience at the Lake District with Pyllon Experience 2.
So I've not really much to add to what I said earlier on. I think I kind of summed it up nicely. Fuck yeah!
I met some brilliant people there. We've got a really strong group of people and athletes and people who are trying to make positive changes in their life. It's really important to me. It's as important to me as racing and getting results. The things that we're doing through Pyllon coaching, and the whole Team Pyllon thing. We've just got a really great family of positive people trying to make a difference and trying to be better humans. So thank you all to that whole big family we've got. I really appreciate it, and you were running through my mind as I was trying to make decisions about what to do and when to push on and when to do something more sensible. So thanks for that. I really appreciate what we've created so far, and I know there's lots more journeys to come together, and I'm excited about that. So thanks. That's me for now. Goodbye.